Building the perfect sandwich is more than just a meal. It's a thing of beauty. At DiBella's, it all starts with the bread, hand-rolled and baked to perfection every day. Step inside and you'll find more than just a deli. You'll find an experience built on tradition, flavor, and a passion for doing things the right way. From the first slice to the last bite, every sub is a celebration of quality, crafted to be savored and shared. Because at DiBella's, greatness isn't just served, it's baked in.
I would like to start here initially and just get some info and background from Carrie that I don't know a ton about. Christian, I don't know if you do as well, but your like start in restaurants initially, like did you go to college for hospitality? Did you come out of school and get into the restaurant industry immediately, or like what's your first foray into the restaurant industry?
Well, it's quite simple. It's my first high school job.
No way.
Yeah. So I originally worked at a McDonald's inside the mall because, every kid when they're a teenager, they want to work in the mall.
Yeah.
And so I was only there for a short period of time. And my senior year in high school, I worked for Wendy's. I had applied, and
was that in the mall too?
That
was there like
actually
a food court
outside.
battle over Carrie?
No, that one, they didn't. Wendy's was not a whole big thing where we lived in the mall, except for maybe one Great Northern Mall.
Okay.
Maybe back in the day. But it was in my local town where we lived, and so I had applied, and they were hiring, and I needed a job because kids, you got to get a car. And so that was in 1994, which was a really long time ago. And I had worked for them pretty much my entire life.
Wow. For McDonald's and then Wendy's.
Wendy's.
Yeah. I worked for Wendy's from 1994 to 2018.
Wow. Amazing. And
Never left.
Did you start as like a cashier, fry cook, and then you work your way up to manager, GM? Like, what's the life cycle of that?
So I started off as a crew person, and I have to say I probably was not the best example of a good employee. I was kind of lazy back then, but I really worked my way up. And I took, I had a mentor who really took me underneath his wing and, believed in me and got me on the right path. And I got promoted to like a shift manager and then, assistant manager, co-manager. They kind of traveled me all over the place. I was on in Cleveland, kind of in a little bit of a sketchy neighborhood. And then I got promoted to a general manager and then worked my way up to district manager. And I was covering multiple markets in the Cleveland area. And then the same family who, owned Wendy's in 1984 was the same company who owned them until 2018 when they decided to sell their franchise. So we had a new franchise takeover at the end of 2017. And I worked for them for a little bit. And the new franchise owners didn't really have the same philosophy of the family-owned business that we had worked for. So I decided to take a leap of faith and get a banker job because I wanted to work 9 to 5. I didn't know what that was like, so I left.
Going corporate.
Yes, I worked the food service, and my husband, he's in banking. So I was like, this is great. Like, we could have the same work hours. We could have the same paid holidays. So I left, and I went to a bank to be like a business personal banker. So I got like 10 months underneath my belt for that, just to kind of interact. Wasn't my thing. I couldn't sit behind a desk for 8 hours a day, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people, like, it was a different type of work environment. Like, I was used to being busy all the time, and I would be killing my numbers at the bank, and they're like, oh my gosh, like, she's making 300 calls a day. And, they weren't making 300 calls in a week, and so I decided to leave because the opportunity at DiBella's came up. One of my mentor had come over to DiBella's to work, and he said, I have this job here, and I think it's perfect for you, and we'd love to have you on the team. So the family who owns Wendy's, or owned Wendy's at the time, also owns DiBella's.
No way.
Okay.
Yes.
No way.
Yes.
Interesting.
That is so cool.
So I had a reputation with the family because I had been obviously worked for them for 23 years before they sold. And when they knew that I had the opportunity and was willing to change jobs and come and work for them at DiBella's, that was my position. And so I basically have pretty much worked for the same family now for a little over 30 years.
I've
is so
one ridiculous follow-up question that might be the stupidest question I've ever asked. Is the family's name DiBella's? DiBella?
No, it's a Fox family. The
Okay.
Fox family is the owner of the DiBella's in these 5 states that we have.
Okay. Follow-up question. A Wendy's question.
Yes.
Do you dip your fries in the Frosty?
A lot of people do, but I'm more of a ketchup girl with my fries, not my Frosty.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's so interesting. Like any Wendy's I've ever gone to, you don't think of it as like a family-owned business. I don't pull through a Wendy's drive-through and think like franchise,
massive corporation.
Yeah,
like,
massive corporation. But to hear the family transition thing, like you could feel the transition of
Yes.
our culture's much different now.
Much different. You know, I mean, our owner of the Wendy's company, when I worked there, he had owned 118 Wendy's in 5 states.
Jeez.
Wow.
And so, you know, when you see an owner or anyone in general who owns that many locations, you don't have a personal connection with them.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know who they are. They're just kind of somebody at the corporate level. But really, they were in the restaurant, you know, and you got to see them and you got to see everyone in the family. And it almost made you feel like you were part of the family. And they took really great pride in taking care of their people. They created a family atmosphere. And that's what really drew me to come to DiBella's, because we have the same philosophy in the family
Yeah.
atmosphere here. And since then, the father has passed away, but the children have now taken on the business of their, you know, father's business. And, you know, they have the same philosophy and values of that family-owned business.
So cool.
Amazing.
And like DiBella's history here, right? Like DiBella's has been around for a long time and evolved.
Yes.
I Googled some of that stuff. So have they owned it since the beginning? And like, how did it, I guess, get started and evolve?
That one, I'm a little clear, not 100%. So the DiBella's families is actually the name. There is one, a gentleman named Joe DiBella who has a DiBella's in Rochester, where it started.
Where it started,
DiBella's
yeah.
started.
Yep.
You were just in Rochester.
Yeah.
Yes, and they have one. It's I think it's on like Henrietta. It's his, and then somehow, some way, the Fox family asked if they could take this and make it more. And so they did, and I think we've probably been in business for maybe a little over 20 years. And so we were in 5 states, and, you know, they went in there, they really liked it, and asked if, you know, they could make it into more. So right now we all kind of work together as a team from the DiBella's, but in 1918 it was like a little
It's like a little family shop.
Yes.
Nice.
Yes.
That is really cool.
Yeah.
Talk about thinking outside the 4 walls. You go into a restaurant and you're like, this is really good. And then you just meet the owner and you're like, do you mind if we just blow this up into something bigger? That's so cool. So, but all the locations right now outside of it, sounds like that Rochester location, are all owned by the family that you've worked for all these years.
That's correct.
Okay.
So currently we have 38 locations in 5 states.
Wow.
So we have stores in Ohio, Connecticut, Pennsylvania, New York, and Michigan.
And do you know like the expansion plans? Anything you can share with us there? Are you guys actively trying to continue growing? I know even since we've worked together, you've traveled to some places and opened and reopened a location.
Yes.
Do you guys have plans to keep growing?
We would like to keep growing. This year, I don't think there's a whole lot of movement as far as growing. Maybe in 2026, there might be something but nothing really on the books at the moment. So we did open two new locations this year in the Columbus market. As you guys probably know, Columbus is a booming market with lots of opportunities and lots of growth happening there.
Go Buckeyes.
Yes. And it's really, really great to have that brand there because we only had 2. So now we're expanding and, you know, more people could use us out in the suburbs. So it's really great.
When you first got to DiBella's, similar like to what we said with the Wendy's, how you work your way up through those ranks, were you initially hired as the sales manager, or where did you start with DiBella's?
So I did start as the Cleveland sales manager at Cleveland and Columbus. So was covering 9 stores as the sales manager directly. So until just recently, I've been doing a dual position, still covering Cleveland sales manager, and then also like the director of catering sales for DiBella's and the rest of the company. So I'm transitioning out of that role where I'll be able to travel a little bit more and work on the operations and work in each market with the direct sales managers and kind of help oversee them.
So are you transferring to just director of catering or just like director of sales?
Well, director of catering, it goes hand in hand, and sales.
Yeah,
so
you got to sell the catering.
Exactly.
Christian.
And make sure my people are selling the catering and that the operation piece of catering is meeting the expectations that we have aligned for DiBella's.
I love that transition because that's something I wanted to talk about specifically, the expectations of that experience and how you're able to complete that for the customer. Do you have an ideal experience for a DiBella's customer, or do you think they have a customer experience that they anticipate with a DiBella's catering delivery or per meal delivery or anything like that?
I think you really got to know your customer and what their expectations are. When I first came to this company, I was able to look at what clients wanted and listen to their feedback. Like, why should we use you over somebody else? And one of my clients, I'll never forget, she's a very large client of ours, and she said to me, I've had so many vendors who would promise me a 7 a.m. delivery. Why are you any different? And I said, well, why don't you give us a chance and let's see where that goes, because we won't let you down. And we had that mindset, and she's like, okay. She's like, because I would have vendors call me at 6 a.m. and say, sorry, we can't do your delivery at 7. And I'm like, well, you give us a chance and let us know, we're going to prove you that we can take on this order. And so I listened to what her needs were and the things that she was concerned about and made sure that we applied that to make sure that wasn't going to happen for that client. So we were able to build that relationship. Every client has a different need and a different expectation, and you really have to ask the right questions to understand how you can meet those expectations for your clients. And this client, to this day, she still calls me 3-4 times a year. Hey, Carrie, I need to, it's usually by text now because that's kind of the relationship we have. But I need, food for 400 people tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. Can you do it? The answer is always going to be yes. Because we have the people and we understand the need for that client, and we don't want to let them down, and that builds our reputation. Now she's going to tell everyone else in her organization and every other market that she works with that DiBella's is reliable and that we are flexible and she can count on us.
This might be a ridiculous question. Do you guys have a breakfast product? Who's ordering DiBella's at 7 a.m.?
Well, the people we do not have a breakfast product now, but
Not yet.
Yeah, we saw that.
Some days I think to myself, like, wow, could we? Maybe. I mean, is that the route we want to go? I don't know. That's not even on just, but you almost have those aha moments, like, yeah, is there an opportunity for that, right? Yeah. But on the flip side of things, for her or for people like that, going out and doing that is for people who are packing up trucks and don't have that opportunity to stop and run through a drive-through, or maybe pack their own lunch, and you're providing that service for them. Or maybe it's for the person who's working third shift, who's getting off at 7 a.m. and they worked all night long, and they want to provide a take-home for them. And so as DiBella's being in a package box lunch, that's an easy way for them to have that nice grab and go where they can ensure that their employees are getting taken care of and getting fed.
It really is like a pack your lunch thing.
That's
like
a good point,
I'm
too.
picturing truck drivers getting ready for the day. They get their box lunch, and like
I've worked some graveyard shifts where a DiBella's sub after at 4 a.m. would have been great.
Yeah,
right.
100%.
You mentioned the box lunch aspect of those deliveries. Christian and I have taken some DiBella's catering ourselves. In our experience, they were the sub sandwich trays. You've mentioned the box lunches though as well. How many offerings does DiBella's have in terms of a catering service?
We have a ton. We have the box lunches, we have catering packages, we have catering trays. If a client requests specific clients, like typically college teams, and that's directly through the sales team, we'll offer hot subs for, college teams who are looking for something other than their traditional cold sub, and they're willing to pay, a premium price for that. So we have tons of offerings. The box lunches come in 4 different sizes. Packaging, we have 3 different size packagings depending on what you're looking for. whether it's, you just want something very simple and basic, or you want to give the works with the garden salad and deli pickles and, the whole nice buffet style. So it really depends on what the client's looking for.
Interesting. And I heard you guys talking previously, the hot sub option is typically something you guys are doing for like the college teams, the sports venues very specifically. When you're focused on a product that's being delivered cold, our drivers typically have the hot bags, the insulated bags and things like that. When it's a sub tray or a cold box lunch, you're maybe not overly concerned with the temperature of that, or maybe it's keeping cool while it's already in the car, things like that. So when that's actually being transported, how concerned are you with that product and how it leaves the store versus how it shows up to the customer?
Well, I mean, it really depends on the time of the year. In Northeast Ohio,
That's true.
typically weather until May is, you're pretty good transporting in a car because it's
all a refrigerator.
Yes, it's not very warm out here.
Possibly colder than the
Right.
refrigerator.
And then in the summertime, we really have, we really have conversation around with our caterers and the people who are taking deliveries to ensure the air conditioning's working. Last thing you want to do is stick, a couple $100 worth of food in the trunk of your car and it's, 90 degrees outside, right? We know that's not going to be great for your food safety. So really making sure the cars are air conditioned. And then if you can't fit that in there, then we look for an additional driver to take that delivery. So that way we're ensuring that the customer is getting a quality product. And after the production of every single meal that our team makes in the morning when they come in, once the order is produced, it goes in the walk-in cooler. So it's really not setting out until we're actually taking it for a delivery from the cooler. So ensuring that temperature, is there shouldn't be an issue.
Hell yeah.
I as we talk about all things DiBella's, I just keep going back to how fantastic your bread is, right? So when it comes to feeding large groups and doing large catering orders, I assume operationally you guys are baking tons of bread, and that is like a big emphasis when you have tons of subs going out. What, I guess maybe not the secret sauce, but like, why is your bread so good? And when it comes to catering, does that provide an extra layer of like operational hurdle? Like, you're clearly baking your own bread in-house. This isn't like somebody who would just source their bread. Is it challenging when your staff or your teams are getting massive orders of 700 box lunches to prepare that bread? Is there anything unique that you guys are doing that is operationally making the bread so good?
I think, well, I wouldn't say
it's the best bread I've ever had.
It really is. But there is a 16-hour proofing process that we go through to ensure that the bread is up to quality. We have these like little, they almost look like little hooks, and you have to make sure the bread is within the parameters of those, and you put them over the roll from the rising before you know that that's ready to go into the oven. Like, you're not putting a roll that just came out of the freezer that barely rised, and you're trying to bake it, right? So there's a whole process on that. And so really we're kind of looking at our sales throughout the day, and we're looking for, catering sales that are coming in. Not only is it catering sales, but you're also looking at the mix of retail. So you're trying to bake for catering in the morning, first thing, and then you're also trying to bake for your first round of your lunch rush. And so a lot of that is being done the day before, because you have to pull it, you have to rack it, you have to wait for it to rise. We have proofers in all of our stores, and you stick them in the proofer, they get proofed, you measure it, you might have to stick it in there a little bit longer, and then you're putting it in the oven, and then you're baking it. And every store, you could probably see the oven as you walk in. Some are behind glass windows, some of are directly in there, just depending on the design of the restaurant. But having preparation and knowing what you need and preparing for it ahead of time is how we do it. And it does take a long time. Sometimes that is the challenging part, when someone calls you and says, I need 150 box lunches in 3 hours. There are times that we can absolutely say yes, and we'll say, can we make it 4? Because we need just a little bit longer, because that bread might not be quite as ready, and we don't want our product to go out that's not up to our standards, because people expect that. To your point, the bread is what makes our subs. People love the taste of the bread, so we don't want to push that quality.
It's the balance of making sure your quality stays upheld, but not saying no to a customer. Just like, hey, let's compromise here a little bit. Can we make it to 4 hours? Like you're saying. Yeah, that makes sense. And then in terms of like, obviously you're the sales leader there. Like, how are you guys managing relationship? Like, what are keys to managing customer relationships long term. So like you have that customer that texts you all the time. And I assume there are times where you guys have to do call aheads and verify. There's probably follow-up calls or emails that are going out. How do you get the feedback from customers and then strengthen that relationship over time?
So we have it. I mean, we have just like pretty much every other organization. If someone orders catering, the very next day we send, it's called a tattle. And basically, it's a report to ask how we were doing. Some people fill it out, some people don't. But the other thing that we are really good about is doing an order follow-up. So most of our clients are getting an order follow-up within a few business days of them placing their order, asking for feedback. And then from the sales team's point of view, we're also doing like account maintenance calls, which means if, my client who texts me, I haven't heard from her in a while, I might shoot her a message and say, hey, like, I haven't heard from you. Do you have anything going on? Love to get you on the books. How can we service you? How can we help you? And those are things that we do to try to help generate those relationships and continue to get those orders.
I want to bounce back to the product a little bit, talking about how good the bread is, the end product that everyone's
It's
having.
so good. It's the best bread.
It is very good. There's a million competitors in this market. I'm not going to list them all. They don't deserve our airtime. They're not here today.
They don't deserve
Carrie Lucas from DiBella's is here today. We're going to talk about DiBella's and how good DiBella's is. That being said, there's got to be more than just the bread that keeps the customers coming back, I would imagine. So is there a value play that you guys have to think about? Is it just the sandwiches themselves? Is it the hospitality they experience when they come to DiBella's? What keeps the customers coming back to DiBella's itself?
That's a great question. I think it's a combination of things, right? We have really good people who work for us, who care, who, try to build relationships with our customers, not just from a catering level, but also from retail level. You have your regular client who walks in and you know what they want. You know that every Tuesday, John's going to be there getting that turkey sub with mayonnaise, onions, lettuce, and tomato, right? And you're already having it prepared and just going out and engaging with them. I think our people at DiBella's are really good with knowing their client base and building a relationship with them. And then also too, that our quality is made fresh. People care when they're making the products. They follow their procedures. The restaurants are clean. They're engaging. When people walk in the door, they're walking them like, welcome to DiBella's, we're saying to every person who walks into the door. So really giving them that overall experience, knowing that we're acknowledging them as they come in. So it's the hospitality piece. It's the overall quality of the products that we use that go out every single day. It's the bread. It's the way the environment is in all of our restaurants. And it's just the overall atmosphere. And it's really the foundation that we've built as an organization.
Is the ideal solution for your restaurants, you do utilize in-house drivers still.
Correct.
And I believe you deliver that for some overflow capabilities. What is your guys' ideal solution for delivering those caterings? And when you do need to deliver that, what are the circumstances when you are utilizing our services?
So ideally, every single store has its own specific caterer. And what I mean by that is the person is responsible for making the order, taking the order, setting up the order, doing the follow-up with the client. It's really that one person is the relationship builder in each restaurant for their catering orders. Deliver That has been a great partner for us because we have been allowed the ability to say yes more often because we're able to take on other deliveries that maybe that caterer in each location can't. Typically, our first resource is we want to self-deliver because you want to have that relationship with that person and build that brand awareness. You almost want to go in and, that person knows, and maybe they ordered a competitor and they might feel like, oh, geez, sorry, Carrie, I had to go with them today because everybody was tired of DiBella's. It's almost like they feel like they're like cheating on you by going with somebody else, but you have that relationship, but they keep coming back. So it's important that we have that because it also talks about, that brand awareness and that family atmosphere that we were talking about, which brought all of us to DiBella's in the first place. So we have that. And then sometimes we have other people in the restaurant that can do deliveries. But if you have a busy retail restaurant, we don't always have the ability to take another person off the service line for retail and have them go out for deliveries. Deliver That. We love to use them for our overflow or those deliveries where we just can't get to because 11:15 till 11:30 seems to be the peak time for deliveries. And there may be some days that we have 7 deliveries where clients want it and we're not going to tell them no, but we may not be able to self-deliver that. So that's where Deliver That's going to come in and we're going to send that overflow with you guys to help us assist that. So, I mean, that's self-delivery is with our people first and foremost, and then deliver that for any overflow that we can't take.
And you mentioned something initially about like our platform and utilizing our services has basically allowed you guys to never say no
That's
to an
correct.
opportunity. So
Yes.
could you just like elaborate on that a little bit, why you
Yes.
feel that way?
You know, it's been really great because we've had you guys for probably a little bit over.
A little over a year.
Yeah,
year and
I
a
think it's
half.
like 18 months
Yeah.
or so. And so last year, I really was able to take a really good snapshot on what business and how we're able to do with a less lead time, 4 hours or less, because you guys are really great. I think it's like 90 minutes. You guys can, pull out a delivery for us. The amount of yeses that we were able to say yes because we had to deliver that as a third-party platform for the overflow of deliveries was just shocking, and when you share those numbers with the stores that are exceeding and excelling at that level, it makes you realize like, wow, like if we didn't have them, would we have these clients, have these sales? And so it's really helped us grow our business in the last 18 months because we're able to say yes because we know we have a partner that we can rely on. And so before, we tried to do that self-delivery and it didn't always work out. Maybe we didn't say yes as much and we'd have to be a little bit more flexible on the delivery times. Now that's not even a question. We don't have to worry about that. And, truth be known, in the beginning, when you have a third-party platform as a delivery service, right, people are very skeptical,
Oh, yeah.
right? They're, oh my gosh, what do you mean? Like, I want to take that delivery,
Yeah.
until they realize the growth and the potential that you have by having a partner like yourself in order to help us grow our business even more.
Do you, as you were describing that though, you're talking about a dedicated person in each store for the catering, like full life cycle of each order to the best of their ability, right? Sometimes you need help with the delivery side of it, but that just shows me there's such an investment at DiBella's to invest in catering, right? Like that's a focus for you guys, obviously. Do you feel like it's always been that way? Has that evolved where that's more of hey, we're going to really focus on this as a primary revenue source? Because I see some brands will kind of offer catering and it's kind of like a lackadaisical approach to it. It sounds really intentional when you have a role for that in your store. It
is. And catering has really evolved into a lot more over the since I started DiBella's. It's definitely a very nice chunk of our overall business. And I think as we continue to grow as a brand, catering is going to be a focus because, as you know, catering is where it's at right now because a lot of people are going back to work. They're enticing their employees to want to come in by providing a lunch. And that's where caterers are going to kind of reap those benefits because you're a solution. And if you make their job easy for placing an order and executing it and being on time, you look like the rock star, right? And that's the service that we want to provide for our clients.
Yep.
When it comes to our piece in this end to consumer logistics puzzle that we're all solving here together, obviously a large subscriber base that we have is the drivers that are actually active on our platform. And I'd be remiss not to discuss some things that would apply to them and they could get feedback from a brand they see on our platform every day, every other day, every week, whatever it may be. What is your interaction, maybe not yours interaction specifically, obviously, but when those drivers are coming into a store like DiBella's, they have their bags, they're on time, they're ready to go. What is your expectations for a driver when you guys are utilizing Deliver That?
Well, my expectation is that they would take the same look at how, if they were working for me, the same pride as they would if they were behind the counter at DiBella's, and what kind of experience they would have. I know that you guys really do your best to train them, and I can say, like, on a personal experience, my husband ordered lunch from DiBella's for one of his clients, and he was at the delivery, and it just so happens that day my store dispatched the order and Deliver That took the delivery.
Way.
Yes. And so my husband was like, oh, geez, where's so-and-so? And I'm like, well, they had too many, deliveries. And so we dispatched it. And, so it was a great experience because I got to get the feedback. And he was like, wow, like this person set it up. They, did everything like exactly like so-and-so would have done it. And I was like, okay. And that was one of our first experiences.
We were all on pins and needles.
Yes.
With Deliver That, because I was like, wow, I mean, if I'm, I was like, oh, geez, I'm thinking to myself, my husband, like, you should have taken my husband's order,
Yeah.
but they didn't. But the experience that he had received and the gal was very engaging and talkative and, just did everything the way that we would have done it if we've done it ourselves. And that's one thing I would want, the Deliver That driver to do, and I think as we grow with our relationship, we need to do better at maybe getting, training modules that will kind of say, hey, this is the setup. I don't remember where we left with that or if we even have it, but, and just saying, this is what we'd like, not like your traditional like Grubhub or DoorDash, when you have a Grubhub or DoorDash, like they're picking up and they're just dropping off. There's no setup. There's not really any interaction. You're calling, hey, your food's here. I'm going to leave it where?
Here, yeah.
So you guys take it to a whole nother level where it is, an actual setup and really engagement with the people. So if you can continue to do that, like from what DiBella's is looking at, I think that would be what I'd like to see.
I think the flexibility is first and foremost about our platform. And even we'll have people signing up and they're like, so is this like a monthly subscription or like what are the service charges? And I'm like, if you don't have catering to send to us one week, you won't get a bill. Like it's just when you need us, we're in your back pocket. So I love that about our platform, and it never feels like you're like selling something. It's like, if you need it, we're here to help.
We're just a part of the journey.
Yeah, we just want to be an extension of what you're already doing.
Yeah.
And I think for on the other side of that too, right? I mean, lowering lead times, having a partner that can take that, but also having a staff who believes that they can do it with a lower lead time too, right? Like they're able to produce those orders. If we didn't have a great staff that would say, okay, yes, we're going to do this, but hey, maybe I can't deliver that, but I know I can call you guys or put the dispatch in. It gives them that peace of mind and the ability to say, yes, we can.
Yeah.
When other people can't.
And that's why I was asking about the bread earlier, because I'm just picturing like 3 hours before the pickup, and they're just like, oh my gosh, we just got a whale of an order coming through. So yeah, your team has to be willing to move at that pace, right? That could change someone's whole shift, right? Yes. You get a catering order and you have 3 hours to put it together, and your whole shift just flipped upside down, right? Like you're not focused on just what's in front of you or this small off-premise stuff. That'll change everything. That's so interesting. I wish we could do like a day in the life of, and just like go to a high volume store and be like
catering manager,
or like actually preparing the food, right? Like you get a catering order at 8:00 and it has to go out at 11, and your whole morning just shifted and you're moving now.
We
where
could
a second
do
ago you
something
weren't
like
doing
that.
We totally
like
can do something
we prep the catering
Yeah,
order
I
with
would
their
love
team
that.
or something like that.
I would love to do something.
That'd
like
be a great
truly.
idea.
And you're the one right around the corner. They have a very high percentage of less than 2 hour lead time.
Last minute ones.
Yes.
Oh, I bet.
Yes. So and again, I think our people have been gotten so good at knowing that it's going to happen.
Expect it.
It's going to happen. Like every single day, it's going to happen, and you're going to have people who call last minute, and so you kind of almost. You build a little buffer in there for that opportunity. So for sure.
That's cool.
I got one last question.
Sure.
And then we get out of here. We can get to lunch. If you're going through the line at DiBella's, what are you ordering?
Ooh, well, I was just telling them my new favorite, and it's a LTO, is the spicy turkey club and the spicy cheesesteak that we had a couple like last week, but we have a new LTO, which is the hamburger cheesesteak.
I got very excited by the
So
cheeseburger.
I definitely had that yesterday. Very tasty on the LTO. And then we have a Sicilian cheesesteak, which will be when I'm in the market. I think I'm in a store tomorrow. So that will be my next one, because I always try to see the new products. But my most recent favorite, like if it was a limited time only, that was, I love those. And then obviously I just tried these new cheeseburger, and I haven't tried the other one yet, but still very good. But before that, my most favorite sub of all time is the Godfather on everything bread. The everything bread, I don't care. I will get whatever kind of meat on it all day, every day. It's just my favorite bread. But the Godfather, like when we have parties at home, and I get a sub tray, I'm getting the Godfather with my banana peppers and my DiBella's oil and my onions. It's just so good. I've never tasted anything like it. And the first time I ever had DiBella's was, when I worked at Wendy's and we did like a really good job, they would bring DiBella's in back in the day.
That was your reward back then.
It was our
yeah,
reward.
that's cool. That's
and
cool.
I was like, oh, where is this? Of course, like or where I live, there's no DiBella's, so it was kind of hard. But now that I work for them, I would get a Godfather. Just so good. It's my favorite.
That's amazing. Carrie, thank you so much again for coming down here today. We're so grateful and appreciative of your time and your partnership and working relationship with everyone to deliver that. Yeah, I mean,
and for bringing us swag. We have some DiBella's stuff. So now we'll be rocking our DiBella's swag all around town.
Awesome.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you so much. And
Thanks for having me.
Let's head to lunch.
Sweet. Where are we going?